Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Office of the State Controller's Quick Vids training series. These videos are designed to help state agencies record and verify various accounting requirements within RSTARS based on guidance from the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. I'll be walking you through the lease fact pattern for the example transactions we'll be posting into RSTARS. For our example lease, we have a term of 5 years or 60 monthly payments. There's a monthly payment of $20,000 and an interest rate of 4%. We entered this information into the T-Value software, and you can see the results in the amortization schedule on the right. It gave us a present value of minimum future lease payments of $1,086,370. The total annual lease payments are $60,000, which is split between principal and interest. Interest is the $10,084, and principal is the $49,915. Finally, we have a monthly amortization of $18,106. This is calculated by taking the total present value of minimum lease payments plus any costs associated with establishing the lease, if any. In our example, there are no additional costs to include. Therefore, we would simply use the $1.08 million that we found previously. We then take that total and divide it by the shorter of the lease term length or the useful life of the asset. For our example, the lease term length is shorter, and so we used 60 months. The annual amount for this year would be the $18,106 multiplied by the number of months remaining in the year, which is 4. This brings us to a total annual amortization of $72,424. In the next few videos, we will walk through the journal entries and how to enter them into RSTARS.
I will be entering a total of 2 transactions to record lease payments and interest paid. Our lease information shows that lease payments are $20,000 per month. In this example, I will be making a payment for 3 months for a total of $60,000. I have already mapped out my entries with the document numbers, T-codes, and accounting elements I will need to use. This information is shown at the top of the screen. Make sure you are logged into RSTARS under the correct user class to make the entry. For this entry to record a lease payment, I will be using user class 17. Navigate to the 500 screen to enter the batch header. On the 500 screen, enter your agency number. For this example, I am using agency 107. Enter a batch date or leave the field blank. I will be leaving the field blank, so it will default to the current date. Enter the batch type. I will be using batch type 4 for this entry. Follow your agency procedures to assign a batch number. I will be using batch number 872 for this example. You may enter the expected batch count and batch amount, or you can leave these fields blank. I will be entering 2 transactions for a total of $60,000. Batch edit mode defaults to edit mode 2, and I will be leaving the effective date on the batch header blank to allow it to default to today's date. Press F10 to save the batch header and move to the transaction entry screen. My first entry will record the principal portion of the lease payment within the governmental fund. Enter the effective date to determine which fiscal month the affected transaction should post. I will be using the current date. Enter the document number and suffix. Enter the T-code, PCA, agency object, amount, document amount. In this case, it will be a total of $60,000. description. And since this is a payment transaction, input the vendor and mail code. Once you have input all the information, you can press F4 to pull in any lookup fields. This will bring in the appropriation number, the fund, the comp object, and information about the specific vendor. If everything looks good, press F10 to save the transaction. I received an error because this is a voucher payable document. I need to establish a due date. I want this payment to go out right away, so I'm going to use the same date as the effective date for the due date. Once I input that information, press F10 to save. My second entry will record the interest portion of the lease payment, also within the governmental fund. The current document suffix incremented to 002, and many of the fields copied over from my prior entry. So I will just go ahead and update the necessary fields for this current entry. So we have a different agency object, 7401 for interest. I will need to input the amount and confirm everything else looks correct on this screen. If everything looks good, press F10 to save the transaction. This completes my entries. I can press F7 to go to the details screen and see both of my entries. I can see that my entered counts that I entered in the batch header do match the computed counts, so all transactions have been recorded as I would have expected. I can then press F6 to verify that this batch is balanced. This batch is balanced. Please select appropriate action. This completes my entries, and this batch is now ready for review and release.
We have generated the DAFR 6610 and 6620 reports to verify the information was recorded properly. The examples used in these videos were created within the acceptance region. Since OB does not include the acceptance region, we ordered the DAFR 6610 and 6620 reports, but under normal circumstances, the DAFR 6610 and 6620 reports within the OB repository will show the same information. These reports are used by your SARS analyst in conjunction with agency disclosures to evaluate if balances and activities are recorded correctly for proper reporting in the DAFR. Therefore, it's important to review either these DAFR reports or OB queries regularly during the year-end closing process. Scrolling through the reports briefly, we can verify the information. In the previous portion of our training, we walked you through recording $49,915 for the principal payment. We see it here on the DAFR 6610 for the Governmental Fund 2202 in Agency Object 7000. This rolls up to Comptroller Object 7000, representing lease payment for equipment and machinery, which is appropriate. We also recorded $10,084 for the interest amount. We can see it here as well in Agency Object 7401, rolling up to Comptroller Object 7401, representing interest on leased assets. This is also appropriate. These transactions have been recorded correctly.